Welcome to Empower, a series of unheard leadership mantras packed in a webinar. Let today be the Fridayest Friday that ever Friday. Now, don't ask me what does that mean because you're going to experience it. For those who don't know me, my name is Meg Rusalda. I'm the Chief Experience Officer for Enable HR Advisory Services, a part of a 11-year-old global HR and advisory firm called The Strategist. And I'm really excited to be hosting this webinar today. The topic, leadership is not a TRP business, is very close to my heart. And I'm really looking forward to hear a wonderful speaker. I'm going to introduce our wonderful speaker in a while from now. But before that, let me make some hygiene announcements. So during this webinar, by default, we have put you on mute. But that doesn't mean that we don't expect you to interact, because we have lots of excitement. We'll have quiz, we'll have polls, and of course you can shoot your questions to keep the interaction going. Also, by default, we have put you, in fact, we have disabled your video. So don't enable it. We will actually ask every participant to enable the video so that we can capture this lovely memory. And last but not the least, like me, I'm sure most of you have multiple devices at home. So when you log in, please log in through one device so that everybody enjoys a good experience of audio and video. So without further ado, let me quickly introduce our wonderful speaker, Srinivas Rao, a dear friend of mine. He's the founder of the Strategist and network of firms. There are 6 firms under the brand The Strategist and. Srini and me, in fact, have worked together, and we are alumni of ENY. And what can I say about the speaker? I mean, Srini is a dear friend, and one of the beauty when you listen to him is it's very rare that what he speaks is found on Google. During his delivery of workshop, you will see a wonderful examples coming in from cricket, from mythology, from Bollywood. So let me not sort of reveal some of the suspense for you. But ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Srini. Srini, over to you.
From there. And as a king, I am supposed to be the one who has lot of resources at my disposal. I am abundance with me, and I'm supposed to take care of my subjects and take care of their benefits. The same definition continued as the world evolved from typical monarchy to even democracies or other forms of things. And because most of the countries, they decided to choose socialism or welfarism as a context. In socialism or welfarism also, it was expected that the leader or the government, whoever is there, is expected to take care of the audiences or the subjects around that. And that definition has continued to a very large extent even today in corporates, where we believe that if I walk into a leadership role, my first primary objective at any cost is to take care of my team members who are my subjects. So knowingly, unknowingly, I start operating as a parent or as a king who starts believing that the people who are working with me or working for my that is flawed, and with the capitalism being around us. And when we especially look at the way today leaders are a different role. As leaders are expected to take subjects, and that is only one component. Role is to serve the shareholders or very rarely, and they are owned by family and run by family. Even the family, there are shareholders who have in the even as a state, I audible? Just
So you were breaking in between, Chini. Maybe this slide you can take it again.
today shareholders have
We are not able to hear you.
just I will Am I audible now?
Yes, Chini, it is better.
So what I'll just try to continue a few minutes and check whether it is making sense. Can we continue now?
Yeah. Continue. You are audible. Better.
Great. So the point that I was making was in terms of the nature of organizations that we have evolved into now, and how the leadership role has changed over it. So today, when we currently look at organizations, they no more operate like kingdoms, in the sense that there is one leader or one king who has to take care of his subjects. But today's organizations are led by shareholders and others, and they need to ensure that their interests are taken care by the leaders. So what does that mean for us? That means traditionally the way the leaders in the past, you will see leaders' job was to provide things. Now it is to enable. So that means we become from providers to enablers. Previously, our job as leaders was to protect. Now it is our job is to create opportunities. Previously, our job was valuing them. Now our job is empowering them. So if one looks at the leadership definition has changed, and so has the role of a leader in the organizations and the way we operate. So what is the journey of leading now? It is previously leadership was all about, as in Dr. Strange, they said it was all about us, or it was all about the person in there. And now when one looks at the role of leaders, it is not about us. We are just a facilitator in the whole process. So how does the leadership things evolve in the stages of the project management? So for anything and everything, being a capitalist economy as we are, there is always an objective which has to be achieved by the organization, and to make that objective achieve is the reason why a leader would come into existence. So as famously we call everything in HR, revolves around R&R. Here also there is an R&R, and that R&R is nothing but what we call as reason and rational. So here, when we go back, the first step would be there is a reason or there is a rationale for which we have to achieve a goal, and hence a leader come into existence. Once that goal comes into existence, then the whole thing of the second step comes in, wherein we'll have to operate as an organization and in the society which creates the moral compass. And this is something important for us to understand. The moral compass is very critical at this point of time, because just to be a popular leader cannot take a decision as and when in the corporate settings. As a king, it was possible for us to go back and take popular decisions as we need to. But today we are constrained by the law of the land. We are constrained by the company's value systems and beliefs. We have constraints of this society, and we need to be able to build and operate around them. The next component that comes is in terms of the to operate. They learned famously different leadership styles. If I need to be tough, for example, as the current situation is where the governments are expected to act out, where the governments are expected to, which may not be to the liking of the greater good or the greater audiences. But still, the governments have to take those decisions, and sometimes our leadership styles would turn very tough, would turn very not so popular. And then finally, last comes is my personal or my persona. How do I treat my people? How do I walk? Do I have evening sessions with them? Do I take them to a beer party? And do I still compensate my tough decisions by being, nice to them and those kind of things? So basically what happens is, if you go back and see the way we operate or the way the outcome of our decisions is, whether I am popular or no, is an outcome of all these four. We cannot go reverse, wherein I'll try to go back and foresee saying, just I need to be popular among my audiences. I will go back and start changing the goals of the project, or just to remain popular, I will break the rules of the law, or I will break the rules of the value systems of the organization. That cannot happen. So it is critical for us to understand. And today, when as leaders we and these governments, our objective is to take up the primary stakeholder, which is the shareholders. We have to deliver, and when we are considered popular, it's a win-win situation. But there may be times when we may not be considered popular for decisions that we've taken, but history will still remember as an effective leader or a good leader, and we should not fall into the popularity trap. So some of the classic examples are like what Winston Churchill did in World War II. During World War II, he was brought in as the Prime Minister of England. And it is surprising, as soon as the war was won by England and people thought for eternally he will remain the Prime Minister, he was asked to step down because they said, you are no more a good leader in terms of normal situations. You were very good when the crises were on. So it is possible that sometimes we seen as somebody who can deliver because in a particular dimension we are good, and it is also quite possible that in some of these dimensions we may be asked to move out because we may not be seen as the one who can deliver. So popularity is an outcome which may not be in our hand and which should not be the guiding force for us. What is the guiding force? The guiding force for us, the reason or the rationale why we were selected to be part of this whole process. Another classic example for us, all of us to remember, is of what Jack Welch did in GE. So when Jack Welch came in as the CEO of GE was in red. It was making losses. It was on the version of filing Chapter 11 bankruptcy. And when he came, he said the only way to make GE all right was to cut the flap and take some tough decisions. Today, if you go back and ask the people at GE, many of them called him Neutron Jack because he sacked the maximum number of people by using the concept of bell curve. People may not like him. He may not be popular among the people, but if you look at GE has survived the worst, and it is one of the iconic organizations today. It is the same thing. Like one of you is referring to the example of Kiran Bedi. If you see the way she's handled things, there are many decisions which she took seemed to be very unpopular at that point of time, or seemed to be seen as anti-establishment. But she stuck to her guns. And when we retrospectively look at some of these leader decisions, we welcome them because at that point of time they were required. So what is critical for us to understand here is the compassion component in us cannot overrule the passion. And we've studied those examples before. Compassion is my ability to deliver using my style, and passion is the objective for which I am in that role. So if I am in a role that requires to take tough decisions, if I am in a role that requires to take turnaround, if I am in a role that requires me to go against the winds, I will need to still go ahead. I cannot fall into that trap of feeling worried that if I take a decision, then I may lose some of the friends who have, some of the peers who have. So I'll take a pause here and I will request if there are some questions or some thoughts from you, and then we will go to the next phase to go back and check why is it that we fall into some of these traps, even though when we know this is not to be done.
Yeah, Shini. So I've got the reaction which normally we get when we do this session. So the famous comparison of Mr. Trump and Mr. Modi, if you can take those two as an example and throw some light in terms of our discussions which you are just telling us.
Sure. So we've seen this. So I'll take to start with Modi's example, and probably because we may all be able to relate to it. So when Modi first time came on to
So we lost you, Shini.
post announcement of the decision, and when they showed, never showed warmth. Today, when you am I audible? I think again there was a pause.
You are audible now, Shini. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I was talking about Modi and demonetization. In demonetization, when he took that decision, there was he never showed any compassion. He was completely going back and saying, "This is how it is, and this is how it will remain." But during the current situation, when we see when he's done the lockdown, on one hand he came on national television and he said there is a lockdown which is must for all. And 2 days down the line in Man Ki Baat, he came and he apologized to the people and said, "I'm sorry, but I'm helpless." And that is a classic example of good leadership in terms of that you are passionate and you are clear about your objective. At the same time, you also go back and show a degree of compassion to people saying that. Again, the same subject which we've learned enough times in management classes where we said actually vulnerability is strength. You don't have to act macho all the time. We need to go back and tell people that this is a time of crisis and there are a few things that I have the answers. There are a few things I don't have the answers. And whenever you show vulnerability, whenever you go back and show that side of compassion, you will actually realize that some of your unpopular decisions are also seen becoming popular and you gather strength around it. Today, Trump has still not been able to do that. Trump is still on that machoism of his where he's trying to go back and say, I am right. And if you go back and type Joe Biden's campaign for president, it is very hard hitting because it just picked up all the clips where Trump is going back and saying we don't have to worry about coronavirus. And there is a meter down which is showing the number of people impacted and the number of people who are dying in US at the same time and the same dates. And the whole campaign is talking about leadership is about not giving excuses, but standing up during crisis. So those two classic examples tell us that okay, we need to do what we need to do as leaders. That is what we get paid for. At the same time, we can be nice while delivering those tough messages, and not with an intent of staying popular, remaining popular. Because even if you take tough decisions, whether you are Winston Churchill or a Modi or anybody, history will still be kind to you, because history will go back and relate it, saying during those times we had no other option. But as leaders, if we fall into the popularity trap, saying no, my TRPs will go down, and at the end of the year, what will people say? So let me compromise on the goals. It is quite possible that we may get butchered by our shareholders as well as by our set of employees who work with us.
Okay. One more question has come to me, Shini, and it goes like, does showing vulnerability gives a positive outlook to the leadership quality? That is the first part of the question. Can it be regarded as the leadership is not himself or herself sure about what decisions he or she is taking?
Great. So that is interesting. I'll answer both the components. So now, so when we say vulnerability, vulnerability is going back and displaying my ability to say I don't have all the answers. Vulnerability, if we show saying I don't know whether I should take this decision, no, then people will go back and tell you to step down from leadership, because as leaders we are expected to take decisions. So my vulnerability will not be there saying I am scared to take a decision, but my vulnerability will be I don't know what decision I'm taking is right or wrong, and I need your support. So there is a distinction between these two. As leaders, when we are authorized or when we are empowered to take a decision, we cannot shy away from taking decision. So today, if you go back, there is a very interesting article which CNN has published saying that governments where there is women leaders or feminine leadership have done far better in managing coronavirus epidemic than others. Because they're saying the good old masculine energy which says I know the answers, I will not look for answers from others, has actually made those countries fail fighting this virus. So when vulnerability, I show my openness to listen, I show my openness to regard everybody's decisions, I show my openness to hear different or diverse thoughts. And that is what the showcasing of vulnerability is. We cannot be vulnerable saying, I cannot take this decision now, so let me postpone it by a week. I don't think that anybody would tolerate. And vulnerability always has been seen in the long run. People go back and respect because people do understand in today's context that as leaders, we are also human beings. We are also mere mortals. We are also having emotions, and we may go wrong. So today's employees and boards and senior leaders and shareholders are extremely aware of that. So they do not expect us to be the superheroes who will not fall or who will not crash. So they are okay with the idea of we not having answers and we looking for answers with everybody around.
Thanks, Shini. I think I was leading to that question because I saw that balance in your slide, which shows the passion and compassion, the balance has to maintain. And I was going to ask you, is are women leaders better in maintaining balance? But thanks, you already covered that part. I think we'll move forward from here, Shini.
Great. So the question then comes is when we know that we are not in leadership role for popularity or TRP, then what is that golden deer which came in Ramayana, which tempted Sita to also tempt? And I don't know whether the quizzes are working, but if they are working, then we'll again take two polls, quick polls, 3 and 4, to check what the audiences feel. Even if we know that this is not a good thing, why do we still get tempted? So
Sure.
Can we run 3 and 4?
I want the third poll.
Great. So here we are giving what are the possible causes that triggers this syndrome in us. Easy to do with individuals, easy to do with organizations, or easy to do with a society in general. So if you can just take this, if you can answer, then we will build from there.
Yeah, I can see people answering already.
Great. Uh, Atul, if you can share the results, I think that will be interesting.
I've just
So, yeah. So this is what the answers look like in terms of going back and saying many of us have gone back and said it is either to do with individual personality style or individual insecurities. That seems to come. So individuals, we are still going back and rating 1. Then the second big rating we are giving is to the social pressures. And then finally the third one, which is a combination of HR systems, organization culture, and other systems that work in the organization. Great. So we will spend some time on this as we proceed. We will go to the next poll also and take a quick dipstick around that. So if I have to define what is leadership all about, so what will be your answer? Is it about power, prestige, or popularity? If you have to choose one, which one of these will you choose? That was quick, and I'm glad that that answers have come. And it is nice that we've got equal answers in all the three components, because that is what Macklin famously talked about. The needs theory, where he says there is need for power, need for prestige, and popularity. And this is where we will go back and start addressing each of these components as we proceed. So if we go back and look at as to what are the reasons why we fall into this trap, these are some of the reasons why you find leaders falling into the trap of popularity. The first and foremost is a need for affiliation. And the need for affiliation is, again, like many of you once said there, where I want to be seen popular among my team members. And again, this comes because from childhood we've been taught, all the great kings, whether it is Ashoka or Vikramaditya or whoever were there, they were very popular among their subjects. And that is what we've been taught from day one. We've never been given examples of kings who were ruthless and who we've been given that impression that if you're a leader, you need to be popular. People should always talk nice things about you. And that is why, and that is how you should be seen and felt with. The second one is our challenge or the psychological construct of the fear of being left out. And more than often, we don't want to be left out. So we are always in that urge to be seen in the popular things around us. Now, this is a challenge for all these young first-time manager leaders you will see. Till yesterday, all of you were my peer group, and suddenly one among us is made a leader. And suddenly you will find that this person is not sure, because he's still supposed to be one up among his peers, who were till yesterday his peers, but he's one down among his seniors because they still see him as a junior. And then we get stuck in this crisis, because I want to be seen in the popular, I want to be called in those evening pub meetings, I want to be called in those social gatherings. And for that, if I have to go back and sometimes be nice to all of them, I have to be, take some decisions which are not right, but I still take. Why? Because I don't want to lose my social connect with this larger group. So need for affiliation is one big challenge in societies like ours, which are basically what we call as collective societies, where I am known by the tribe in which I am associated with. That is why you will find in Indian context, every time when you say a name, people are keen to know your surname also, because the surname represents your tribe, and that tribe is what people want to relate to. And if I need to be part of that tribe, then irrespective of the fact whether I like doing things or no, I want to be part of it. And that is what the fear of being left out, what keeps me going on. The second one is very interesting. People whom we see, we generally are more responsible or accountable for. So I see my team members every day. I don't see the shareholders who are the owners or the board of directors. So I don't really bother about their agenda, their goals, and their thoughts. But I see my team members every day. Every day morning they'll come and wish me. Every day in the evening they'll say good night to me. I know when their birthdays are. I know what is happening in their families. So my natural temptation or the inclination is to go towards my employees rather than my shareholders, whom I don't see or I don't hear so much of. So that typical out of sight, out of mind syndrome operates, and unconsciously what happens is my inclination is towards to be the employees. Many times we will also go back and check with the leadership, and it is strange that they believe that in the current ecosystem it is always employee first, and business and shareholders can stay later, because that seems to be a very popular construct in the latest management theories that have come. And in that process also, my temptation is to go back and start pampering my team members and to go to any extent to take care of their needs and aspirations, forgetting that by default I am sitting in that leadership role because there is a goal to be achieved, and that goal is directly given to me or being accountable by the shareholders or the board. The third one, which is more interesting, is many times we are too bothered about short-term results, because all of us today live quarter on quarter. So when I'm working in my role, I'm looking at another year or two. Before that, I've already decided to move away from the organization, look for something else. So we are not really bothered about institution building anymore now. We are only bothered about delivering the projects. Now I need to pamper my team members, because they are the ones who are going to go beyond of call of duty to get my results done. And that is where you will again see my natural temptation is to take care of my team members who are around me, rather than go back and try to build an institution. We've discussed previously also in many lectures distribute justice takes over social justice. So I need not be fair and just. I'm expected to deliver results at any cost. And in that process, if I know if I'm pamper my team members this time over other three, they will go out of their way to get things done. In that whole process, we always fall for that trap where we go back and say that I take care of my team members. The last among this slide, which is very, very interesting, is many of the leaders you will find have grown to those leadership skills without having strong technical competencies. So they don't understand business much in great detail, but they've been able to deliver. So how do they compensate their technical incompetencies? Typically by doing kind deeds and words, and compensating people with gifts and other appreciations. Because they know, okay, I cannot technically challenge my team members. I am an incompetent person there, and I don't want them to get me into that wrong side. So I generally overburden or overwhelm them by doing other things which are not part of the original plan. And I believe that by doing those pamperings and by doing those additional stuffs, I will be able to compensate that. So there are another 4 reasons, but before going to those 4, if you have any thoughts or questions, please feel free to ask. I will answer them, and then go to the other 4 reasons also why we fall this trap unknowingly and how we can avoid that.
Yeah, Srini. So I got a query from one of the participants about there are in our history, you see, there are ruthless leaders have been put forward, maybe dictators. So somebody like Hitler is what is something we can see or learn or unlearn from a personality like Hitler?
So Hitler is a very interesting concept if you see. So Hitler was very popular in Germany for the Germans. In fact, he was so popular that only after the World War II was over, he killed himself. Is when Germans realized what they had done for Jews, and there was great guilt among all the Germans because Germans didn't never realize Hitler did. He was doing parallelly all that to Jews. Now, why was Hitler so popular among his so-called followers or among the people? Was because he was again sticking to the goal which he had set for. And his goal was very simple, where he said, I need to make a strong Germany, which was pre-World War One, which was a Germany. And they felt that after World War One, when Germany lost and they put a lot of penalties on Germany, Germany was mistreated by the world. So when you go back and look at even ruthless leaders, if they are keeping in the four pyramid that we discussed some time back, in the sense that they are sticking to their goals, they are sticking to the moral compass of the organization, they are sticking to a leadership style which is very fair and just, you will go back and see people still like them or people still are okay with them. And we have seen with quite a few things. So if you see the contrast how China or Singapore have evolved, it is very surprising. People don't have that much freedom either in Singapore or China, but people are pretty happy with the leadership because they have delivered to what they have promised, and many times they have been very ruthless in the way. So if you go to a country like Singapore or Dubai, and you can't do many things that you typically do it in India or some other countries, whether it is honking on roads or deciding to stop the car in the middle of the road just to look around, we can't be doing that. But people go back and have adjusted their lifestyles to that. People have gone back and build around that. So it has to be clear, why am I doing something, whether it is Jack Walsh or any other leaders. They were very clear at that point of time saying we will do these things because the greater good demands that, and they were fair and just, and that is what made them okay among their followers, and history has not been that bad to them.
Okay. A related question which came to while you were giving the answers. So, is the popularity of a leader, so somebody like Modi who is more popular than Trump, does that also alter the narrative which we are trying to set in?
Absolutely. In fact, one of the reasons they say that Obama couldn't wage a war on Middle East was because even before he was sworn as the president of USA, he was given Nobel Peace Prize. And that was a trick played by the world on him, they say, because he was very keen to take the war on the Middle East, but he couldn't do because being a Nobel laureate, you can't wage a war. And they said even to kill Osama, the decision was not taken by him but Hillary, because he was not sure how history books will treat him because he was seen as a Nobel laureate. So many times the pressure of being popular or whatever few decisions you've taken, and you have a followers, and these followers, then they start dictating the way you behave. And that's a trap that many leaders fall in, and that's a trap some leaders fall out of. So you see the same with movie heroes also. Once you fall into an image and you have a followers who expect you to do those kind of roles again and again, very few have the courage to go and break that, and many of us fall into the trap of doing it again and again. So, like for example, one of the reasons that we checked why we do. Supposing if the HR introduces a system saying the top two or three most popular leaders in the organization say get a trip to Hawaii along with their family, and I am chosen by my team this year as a popular leader, and suddenly I come into limelight. Now, it is quite possible the next one whole year, even if there are some tough decisions I have to take, I may shy away because I want to be in that context again. I want to again emerge as a top three leaders, and I don't want to fall for them that. And in that process, I may start compromising on some of the decisions.
I think that is exactly the trap which we are talking about, and that goes with the theme. That's why I asked you that question. A very related questions, and maybe related to region as well. A classic dilemma of short-term results versus long-term vision. So what happened? We saw in Hyderabad where there was directly a shootout happened after the rape case. Do you think defying the law and order situation, or there are sometimes you have to cross the line? Is that short-term result versus long-term vision? How does that stand in between?
So the answer is in the second circle, which we saw, the moral compass. So what happened in Hyderabad is absolute no. We cannot cross that Lakshman Rekha, because then the whole challenge comes is who draws the Lakshman Rekha and who decides whether it is good or bad. So for example, if you are a sales guy, I am a sales guy, and one of the possible clients says, I will give an order to you, provided you bribe me. Now, in short term, it looks very nice because that $1 million contract may make all the difference, and we may go back and say, "यार एक time के लिए माफ कर देते हैं." But you're setting a precedence which can be misused by people by many ways and types of doing it. So, if the moral compass of the organization clearly says that we cannot bribe come what may, or we cannot do some of these things, we should stick to it. But if the moral compass of the organization says it is good to go, like for example, the same thing would have happened in China, it was perfectly good to go because we have enough cases. So there is a very classic case study that is taught in China. There was this 16 years old girl who was raped, and she came, and when she was dying, the chairman Mao was there. So he said, "Did you shout for help?" So she said, "Yes, I did shout for help, but nobody came." So he asked, "How loudly did you shout?" So he took her to the spot, and they say he asked the guards to spread around 4 directions, and he said, "You start shouting," and he told the guards, "Till the time you can hear, you keep walking." After some time, when she was shouting, the guards couldn't hear. So he drew a perimeter saying, that means all these people would have heard this girl shouting, and nobody came to help. So he said, "Arrest all of them, and then we'll decide what to do with them." And it's we don't know. It's a folklore, they say. But if that was true, then if somebody was sitting in the home and he may be sleeping, he may be ill, we don't know what happened, why didn't he come out? But he was in jail for sure. So in countries where moral compass is defined by law like that, you can do it. But in a country like us, where the law is clearly defined, saying I cannot take in my hand, we cannot do it. So that is why that second component is very important. What is the organization culture? What is the law of the country? What is the moral compass? And we have to stick to it.
Yeah, I think very nicely put, Shini. One last thing we will take, then we'll move forward. And it's about, in terms of, there are in corporate world, we have seen that sometimes leaders are not popular, or they get into a style of command where they have the commanding style. But still, we have seen if the teams are working together, or the teams below them are taking that kind of a collaborative approach, they are delivering the results. So how does that happen?
No, so if you go back and see, delivering results may happen for multiple reasons, because I need that job, or I need that there is no other option for me to get aligned, and I may do that. So irrespective of the leaders, he may be autocratic and may be still aligned, is because of that. Secondly, there are many of us who are also very okay with the idea of being dictated by somebody, because, as I said some time back, many of us were born and brought up in an ecosystem where we were told, you have an elder who's smarter and elder to you, and that's why he's sitting in the church, so you better get aligned and you better do whatever they say. And we strictly follow those guidelines, whether it is our parents, or whether it is our elder siblings, or whether it is our leaders at office. The challenge is for us as leaders to understand is, if we fall into that trap, we can be successful, but we cannot become the CEO of the organization. Because somewhere the leaders, the boards, when they check at our track record, they go back and clearly look for a good balance of masculine and feminine energy to be able to go back and then identify who will be the guy who will lead the organization. At that point of time, if you go back and only come across as one-dimensional or a unidimensional leader who gets things done at any cost, but doesn't have the strength, doesn't have the warmth or compassion, then we will have a challenge. And that's what typically Modi has learned in his second term over the first term. People love him for taking tough decisions, but they also expect him to be compassionate. And that's why you see so many times he comes on TV now with folded hands and saying, I'm sorry, but I can't help it. We didn't see this in the first term of his 4 years. So that feedback has gone to him well. Ki people do respect you for taking decisions, but don't come across as somebody who's unidimensional, one track. Bring that compassion, saying ki there is the other side of me, because that is how diverse leaders are expected to be. And that is one of the reasons why you will find Indians as far more acceptable CEOs across the globe in multinationals, because Indians come across far more open to diversity and compassionate, because the way we are born and brought up in this country, we are far more accommodative than others, and that is something which we need to keep it as a trump card for us.
Thanks, Jimmy. I think that's well said. We'll move forward from here.
Great. So I will pick the last 4 points, and then we will pick the other questions around that. So the other 4 reasons why people fall into this typical trap is we like to play demigods. Good or for bad, we have egos, and our egos are typically twice the size of our actual physical size. And many a times our egos make us demigods. And as you become demigod, then you're expected to remain popular, because that is one of the conditions of being perceived as a demigod. And our fragile egos only help us to do that. So one of the ways of not falling into the trap is remembering that egos are like piglet, and they should remain that. So when you see baby pigs, you will realize they're nice and cute. But as the pigs grow big, you only find them ugly and in shit. So egos are like that, and we need to be careful of that. So this demigod syndrome as leaders, because the moment you have followers, suddenly you will realize morning 9 o'clock you get up and there are people lined up outside your office cubicle saying, boss, you are the best, you are so awesome, you are so good. And we start falling into the trap of listening to it. It's like, say, an Amitabh Bachchan or a Shah Rukh Khan. When they come out of their home, they expect thousands of people standing there ready to die for them. So suddenly, if nobody comes out of their home, they are going to feel lost. The same is with us. So this ability or this need to be demigod is something which we need to be careful of. The next one is our inability to handle the pressure of collective society. We want to be seen good, we want to be heard good. Whenever somebody talks about us in references, whether it is an evening talk or something, we somewhere believe that people have to talk nice about us. We don't want people talking bad about us. And that's one of the syndrome of the collective society. As we said some time back, we are known by the tribe in which we are. And that reference check for us is very, very critical in our kind of component. So supposing if boss is hosting a party, and for some reason if he doesn't call us, we believe it's the end of the day and we have to go and kill ourselves, because it is somewhere reflection on our thing. Now, to be that, to do that, we generally go and try to do things which are not required. And many times that happens beyond our workplace also. So whether it is doing charity to a religious institution, whether it is going back and doing few things for family, we fall into that trap of collective society to just remain there. The other one which we discussed, so I will not spend so much time, is our ability to remain in the peer group, especially the young millennials, first-time managers fall into that trap. Because as I said, I am not seniors in my group, and I'm still a junior in my seniors. So we are caught in that trap, and many times we don't know how to manage these two groups. The last one is very interesting thing is where the organizations have gone ahead and created various concepts like 360-degree things which are in conflict of the base premises. So, for example, if my HR comes and tells me every day that at the end of the year your team members are going to vote you, and that voting is going to be very important for your growth, then I start believing that I need to take care of them, and that whole conflict of interest comes in. And in many organizations, this has become so overwhelming. You cannot have escalations around you. People cannot refer to you an ombudsperson, and there will be inquiries. And in that process, people have fallen into the trap of going back and saying, I don't care about the organization goals, but my only goal seems to be survival, which will happen if I take care of my team members. And that is where my insecurities come in, and I'm actually okay to have a hole in my soul. wherein I'll go back and say, I don't care about my own personal belief systems and all that, but I'll go back and ensure that the organization's mandate of keeping or remaining popular among the peer group is far more critical. So to sum up, and then I will take few questions, is critical for us is to understand is this whole journey is not going to be easy, but it is going to be worth at the end of the day. And it is important for us to understand that popularity or fellowship is a byproduct and it cannot be a motive. So there's a very interesting story that Devdutt Patnaik keeps telling. He says the greatest lover in the world or mankind has been Lord Ram, because he's the only gentleman who walked 4,000 kilometers on foot to get his wife back. And in today's context, we don't even walk 4 kilometers in malls. Along with our spouses, we get tired, but he relentlessly walked 4,000 kilometers to get his wife back. And then he says, after getting his wife back, some fellow goes back and tells, puts a question mark on the morality and says, is she worth being the queen? And as a king, he decides to let go of her. As a husband, he never let go of her, because even after that, we've seen he never marries and he's stuck to his promise of being Ekampati. So the question is, as leaders, we will have tough situations wherein we will have to cross those difficult times. We will have to take decisions which may not be the rightest decision for ourselves. But we cannot fall into the trap of only popularity context and give up on the things for which we came into those roles in the first time. And moral compass and morality, what Ram teaches us is often quoted saying, it was very easy for him to could have overruled that decision and said, as a king, I can overrule. But then he never fell into that popularity contest. He's stuck by the rules, and the rules of the game at that point have said he has to let go and he will let go. The same is for us. We have to understand our rules of the game and try to stick it and not fall into this context of am I seen, perceived to be popular, and if for that, if I need to go back, then I will do things which may not be right for the organization, is a very short-term thing and will not help us in the long run. So I'll pause there and take some final questions. Please feel free to share.
Yeah, Srini, we have an important, interesting question about the situation we are in.
Yeah.
So during crisis situation, if a leader could lose his job, what should he do in terms of prioritize his team benefit or his benefit? How can he take care of his personal benefit, or maybe not breaking the rules as a leader? So any thoughts around it?
Yeah. So the answer is very simple. Yeah, the team priority will come over his priority, because as a leader, when we took up that role, there was a what we say unstated promise made to the team that we will always take care of their interests first, and that is why we were chosen in that role. So, like for example, today, one of the big decisions that many of us take is to let go of some people in our teams, because businesses are going to come back hard saying, we don't have the money, or business is slowing down. So do we really need so many people in our organization? So as a leader, you may go back and say, I may let go of few people, or as a leader, you may go back and have a conversation with all the members and say, can we all take 25% cuts and retain all the people in the team? Now, as leaders, some of these dilemmas is what we'll go through. So leaders who believe that their job is to take care of the interest of the team members, they will do that. And that's what the Indigos and the Go-Airs of the world have started doing. From the CEO to everybody have taken pay cuts to retain jobs as many as possible. Some organizations will find other way where they'll go back and say, no, we will cut all the people we don't require, but the people who are there will try to produce more than required. And that's how we'll bring things back to profitability. So in crisis situations, as many as it could be possible that our jobs are at stake and we may have a challenge, but we will stick to that challenges, because as leaders, we were supposed to lead it from the front. So if you go back to military leadership, it always says you will be in the front of the battle, and that is when your team members will respect you. please understand today, if we go back and give a glimpse of us playing the survival game, wherein we try to survive or we want to save our skin, we may be able to. But within few years, the word will spread. And when really things look up and the economy looks up, and at that time when team members have to choose their leader, it is quite possible that some of these people may not want to work with us because they'll go back and say, this lady or gentleman will always try to put his sacrificial goat team in front and save his skin. So we have to be careful about it to ensure that we balance the individual survival instinct vis-a-vis team. It will be always the organization will come first, then the team, and then, as they say in the military motto, if you still have resources, then I will try to use the resources for me. So it will start with the society first, the organization second, the team third, and then the fourth one, which is the individual. But it would again go back on each of us, our experiences, our compulsions. And that is the beauty of leadership, that we're all going to react differently in these situations.
True. Very well said, Srini. I think that's a good insight. I think you covered in terms of how to handle the team in such situations, or is there something specific which leaders can take up, because there might be a lot of anxiety and other issues with the team.
So I'll just show one slide. I will not spend time on that. We can do probably another session on that if required, but I will show you one slide after this, which typically goes back and says what typically leadership will be required to do post-lockdown. And I will just focus on one component which consistently comes across all the buckets, is our ability to be compassionate. We may have to do tough things. We may have to ask people to go. We may have to cut down promotions. We may have to cut down salaries. That all is there. What is required is our ability to empathize with people, our ability to be compassionate with them and explain why we are doing so. You cannot shoot emails and pass this communication. These communications have to be done by you in one-to-one. You have to spend time with them. If possible, try to do it in person. If possible, try to do with data and show with facts to them, why did we arrive at this decision. So 2-3 things are very critical for us. Our ability to empathize with the people, our ability to communicate consistently with them, and our ability to come across fair and just. It cannot happen that today morning you took a tough decision of cutting some 25 jobs and 100 people's salary, and the evening you are posting on Facebook a nice post saying how you met your old friends and had a drink. That will be catastrophe for us. We need to be careful of some of those things as we proceed as leaders. So we need to be having a healthy balance and take care that we don't come across as reckless, but as people who have the mind and heart in place.
No, I like the way you have put together fair and just and responsive to not only other needs, even the emotional need, where people are being communicated in a way that the compassion shows. So there is one more query in terms of some reference to the books people can refer and read in these times. It can be an inspiration for them.
Yeah. So what I'll do is I will send that link. I don't remember as of now offhand, but I will dig into my library and refer 2-3 books, and we'll have it circulated. There are some very nice books around this. But any topics on emotional intelligence you can read. Emotional intelligence will help you to understand quite a bit about things around this. And I'll definitely give you those 2-3 books which are easy read, and I'll share them.
Thank you, Shini. I think with that we will wrap up the session. Thank you, participants, for a very active participation in the polls. Some very good questions. I think, Shini, this time we have got some very insightful questions that has really led to a bigger answers than the earlier sessions. So I'm very happy that the participants were quite active. And apologies for the disturbance in between because there were some bandwidth issues.
Thank you, Srini, and thank you to all the participants for making this session very engaging, interesting, and very interactive. In fact, I must share with you that for today's session, being the first session, I also had my wife sitting next to me, and she agrees with Srini, and in fact, she added one more, that along with leadership, should also say that leadership and parenting is not in TRP business. So the message is well done, Srini. Thank you so much. And I hope for all the participants, what we've gone through today is going to be very relevant in today's context. So on behalf of Enable and the Strategist family, thank you once again. I'm glad that you are turned up today and made our first webinar a great success. But before we hang up, I would love to capture this in the form of memory. So if you can turn on your videos so that we can take a nice picture and make a nice memory of it. But once again, thank you all. Have a good evening ahead and a lovely weekend. Thank you so much. Bye for now.